Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out this afternoon to the Humboldt Park Chicago Avenue visioning session. My name is Ernest Bellamy. I am the program manager for DPD for the corridor. So I just wanted to go over quickly the agenda for today. We're going to have a welcome, go over the workshop goals, kind of go into a deeper dive of Chicago Avenue and previous planning efforts along the site, as well as a deeper dive into the opportunity sites that we have along our corridor. And then from there, go into breakout groups for a deeper conversation about these opportunity sites and what you've seen, you'll see here today. And then a wrap up towards the end, having a greater group discussion and a little bit of talk about next steps. So with that, I wanted to welcome everyone to the visioning session. I saw Alderman Mitz is on. I don't know if she wanted to give a few words, say hello. Okay, maybe we could circle back to that.
And while we're at it, is there anyone on the line from Alderman Burnett's office?
Is officially a cancer.
I'm a precinct captain, 27th Ward.
And low of the year would be.
Thanks, Mr. Muhammad.
Yeah, thank you. And low.
Maybe Alicia may be getting on. She's one of his administrative assistants.
No worries. We just wanted to give the alderman a space to say a couple words, but we can circle back as well. We can let both aldermen check in with everyone.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I wanted to thank the community for coming out today. Our regular roundtable attendees, as well as the DPD staff on the line, and our consultant team, which is spread out between JGMA, Belgravia, Integra Realty Resources, and McHugh Construction. Our team for today that you'll see in kind of like the breakout groups later on, as well as the JGMA team who will be talking later on in the presentation, are as such: myself, Gerardo Garcia, Jasmine Gunn, Brian Hacker, Ethan Lassiter, and Mike Padilla, Michael Pennisnack, and Erica as well as the JGMA team, led by Juan Moreno, Emilio Padilla, Angelica. Forgive me, Angelica, your last name.
No, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. Polechna.
John Roush, and Daniel Gomez Latour. So this workshop goals, the workshop goals for today is to determine the parcel specific development opportunities and priorities for Chicago Avenue. Looking at creating new amenities and businesses to benefit West Humboldt Park. Looking at developing publicly owned land, and where feasible, partner with private owners for a larger project. We're looking to attract new amenities and businesses to benefit the residents and business owners here, and identify programming needs along Chicago Avenue. Ideally identifying potential economic development strategies to go forward. I see Alderman Mitz is joined us back again. Alderman, I wanted to hold the room for you in case you wanted to say a quick hello.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad you all are here and thank you for participating today. I'm excited about all the work that we are doing, even during this pandemic that we're in, and how we're still make things happen so we can have a brighter future once we come out of this terrible darkness. We can still see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I'll let you, Ernest, continue to work, and thank you all for being here with us today.
Thank you, Alderman. And so for those who don't know about Invest Southwest, this corridor RFP opportunity, this is all part of Invest Southwest. As a quick recap, the city is focused at using public funding over the next 3 years to leverage into new investment along 12 key corridors on the 12 commercial corridors in 10 communities on the south and west side. We're looking to support infrastructure development, improve programming for residents and businesses, and policies that impact each of the community areas surrounding these corridors to create a lasting impact. So some of you in today's presentation may be wondering, what are Invest Southwest RFPs? RFPs are requests for proposals. Traditionally, they provide basic details regarding the subject property or a property that we're looking at as an opportunity, and a brief indication of a preferred use. Our Invest Southwest RFPs go a step further and illustrate the desired urbanism of the site, as well as a more robust description of the community's desire. Invest Southwest RFPs are also built on available incentives and partner the incentives with the purpose of development to ensure a high level of financial feasibility. Now, with all that said, RFPs are not a plan. This is not set in stone. The RFPs do not represent a finished plan for the site in question. The drawings, images, and narratives associated with the RFP simply help to shape the responses DPD will receive from developers. The engagement carried out in roundtables and this visioning workshop are aimed at reviewing potential uses, densities, and site layout. However, it is important to note that the respondent developers will propose their own designs and programs. There will be other opportunities to review these proposals during the process. Three main goals for Invest Southwest RFPs are to facilitate design excellence on the south and west sides, use inclusive decision-making process to guide economic development, and to build local wealth. Our release schedule for this batch of RFPs that are getting created, along with Roseland and South Shore and North Avenue, just north of our site, is as follows. We're looking to kind of stand up something towards the latter third quarter of 2023 through this process. And our current schedule that we've been working through this RFP process is currently we've met with some select stakeholders last week at the roundtable earlier this week, introducing you to a bit of the team and their work. And then beyond today's workshop, we'll be having continued engagement through early March, reporting back a bit at a second visioning session, as well as some more feedback during our next roundtable in late March, and looking to stand up the RFP towards the end of March, with responses due back into the city for this RFP in the summer. So with that, wanted to dive into our corridor and some of the previous planning efforts along the corridor. In 2005 and 2008, LISC was able to do a quality of life assessment, quality of life plan on our corridor. Those have been the previous plans that have taken place thus far. From the previous development priorities were centered on health and wellness, creating a community space for wellness and health was central to the community. Supporting local businesses, providing job training and development, creating a greater sense of more fresh and quality foods to serve the corridor and the community, as well as greater spaces for youth and culture. Creative places for youth to socialize within the community before and after school. What we've learned from the previous stakeholder feedback was resonated true to what we've mentioned in roundtables previously, as well as in our select stakeholder interviews that we've conducted thus far, of attracting private investment to our corridor, investing in existing assets, and looking at opportunities to improve vacant lots and parcels and vacant buildings along our corridor, as well as public safety challenges and concerns from making safer spaces for youth before and after school. Our corridor, kind of seen here off to the right of the screen, is kind of central to a greater vision for Chicago Avenue, from West Humboldt Park through to Austin, in that it's kind of a pearl on a necklace of investment that we'd like to happen along Chicago Avenue, from Invest Southwest initiatives in Austin, the Joint Public Safety Training Campus site that's just down the street, as well as our corridor. So we're looking to really strengthen this region of West Humboldt Park in the west side in order to really build back better our community. And so here I'll transition over to the JGMA team to talk a little bit more about our Chicago Avenue corridor.
Perfect. Thank you, Ernest. Would you want me to share my screen, or do you want to keep clicking through?
Oh, we'll keep clicking through to the next transition.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Yeah, so
Oh, sorry about that, John.
no problem. So thank you, Ernest, and thank you all for your feedback today. JGMA is certainly happy to be part of these worthwhile endeavors. Yeah, so just looking closer here, zoomed into the Chicago Avenue corridor, the team really just wanted to start to understand the greater neighborhood community assets and the impacts those things might have on the corridor. So, for example, thinking of health and wellness and the importance of that, and the opportunities that large open space such as Humboldt Park or Garfield Park can provide, and their proximity to the corridor, as well as the boulevards. Certainly understanding where public transportation is and what role that might play. And then the neighbor to the west, as Ernest mentioned, the Joint Public Safety Training Academy, and how those things might begin to impact the ideas we have for certain parcels along the way. And then certainly, interestingly, the corridor is flanked by these quasi-industrial areas that begin to bring a perception of barrier. And so you begin to think through how we can kind of break down those walls through this development. I don't know if someone from
So
Belgravia wants to join
Ernest,
us.
Jim from Realty will be talking on this. I don't know if he's able to unmute.
Yes, hopefully you can hear me. We wanted to pull some basic data for the demographics of the area. And this is literally some basic data on the entire community area for Humboldt Park. However, doing some more research, there's really about 3 different communities within Humboldt Park. And the gentrifying area on the east side, central area, which is seeing some of that, and then the west side of it. But this is an overview of how many households, the ratio of homeowners to renters. And that median income number is the one I want to research some more, because there is a wide range over the community area depending upon how far east you are versus how far west. Unfortunately, until the 2020 census data is released, we're not going to have great numbers, but we're working off of trended data from the American Community Survey, which was from 2012, 2016, and then they're continuing to update that. So anyway, this is as I say, this is a basic overview of what we see for the community area as a whole, but there are some rapidly changing trends within that. I'll leave it at that.
So JGME team, you can kind of transition here and take over the screen sharing.
Okay. Yeah, so going into a little bit of a deeper dive into the corridor that we're looking at, the first process is understanding all of the groups and the great things that are going on currently in the community. And so we've kind of listed some of that here. So obviously I mentioned, Humboldt Park and the boulevards existing, but certainly there are few, but some other parks such as Kells Park to the east, which we know is highly used by the community, although lacking some, basic field house restrooms and the like. And then, we certainly know that the Orr Academy is to the west towards Pulaski. And then Roe Clark School is here centralized. And so we know, those things bring a lot of student pedestrian traffic to the corridor. So thinking through what that means. And then certainly there are important civic aspects to the neighborhood. So the Illinois Department of Human Services is identified, West Humboldt Park Family and Community Development Council, Neighborhood Housing Services, the Salvation Army Freedom Center, and then also the Richard M. Daley Library to the east. There are some health organizations around, so Amita Health, the NIA Family Center, and then we also have identified some stakeholders, many here on the call today. So the Kelly Hall YMCA, the Ice Cream Bar, business here along the corridor, Family Supportive Services, and the Turkey Chop. So from there, we're gonna just take a look at each of the sites individually before we dive into the opportunities available for them. So site A is at the west end of our corridor, at Pulaski and Chicago, of course. The site currently looks like this, a lot of open space with a currency exchange building and some parking. This is a great potential opportunity at the west end of the corridor because it really presents a sort of gateway opportunity to think about what could happen there. So site B, as you can see here along Springfield, between Springfield and Avers, is in a bit of a gap between where we have things going on centralized and to the west. But it is a large site, which makes it interesting for development. It does currently have an existing building, as you can see, flanked by 2 empty lots to the east and west. Opportunity site C is very central to the corridor, as you can see, and also where a lot of things are going around, from the school to the development council, neighborhood housing services, family supportive services. So there's a lot going on in this area already, which could make it a great spot for further development. It does have a current existing building on the site, as you can see here. And then site D, we've identified here near the Salvation Army, is the furthest east site that we've been looking at. I think one thing to note before we go much further is site A and D are interesting because they're on the north side of the street, whereas site B and C are on the south side. So they might be developed a little bit differently, especially when you think of southern exposure that can occur. So site D is interesting. It's got some landscape area that's been developed and some open space. It's between 2 buildings, so this site is unique in that it would be a true infill type of scenario. So moving on to start to begin to identify ideas that could take place on each of them. Again, so coming back to site A, this is a bit of a zoomed in site aerial, so you can see a kitty corner. Again, we have the Orr Academy. We have a gas station to the west. We've got some fast food to the south. But again, this is a great opportunity at the intersection of 2 major thoroughfares. So what could become a real gateway type of development here has a lot of potential. So you'll see for each site, we have 2 options in order to explore all the possibilities and to kind of provoke your thoughts so we can get as much feedback from you as possible. So in this scenario, site A, option 1, we took the idea of placing commercial retail along Pulaski, and then providing some public plaza space at the corner of Chicago and Pulaski with a neighborhood amenity program to the east there, as you can see in green. Above that, we're showing about 50 units of multi-residential in about 4 floors, so 5 in total. Option 2 for site A kind of flips the script a little bit and brings that commercial retail back to Chicago Avenue and holds the corner strong with a strong urban condition. In this case, we still think a neighborhood amenity program would be appropriate, but we considered pushing it down Pulaski, nestling into the neighborhood a little bit more, and then providing an open public space that could have similar programming in between. And in this case, 3 levels of multi-unit residential above that.
Well, before we move on to site B, I wanted to kind of, we wanted to poll the audience, and if we could pull up those poll questions.
Yes.
Actually, we've got we should be a poll for everyone to take virtually.
Can you see that, Ernest?
I
I can see it.
Okay,
I can
well,
see it as well.
great. John, if you could go back to the slides.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
So there are 2 questions here for site A. The first is what types of uses would you like to see more of here along Chicago Avenue? And it's retail stores, restaurants, neighborhood amenities, or some other type of industry or commercial. So select the one you'd like. And then the second question you should see if you scroll down a bit is, what do you think about the height of the building? Is it too tall? Could it be taller? Or is it just the right height? So I'll give people a couple more seconds to click on.
How many stories is the building that you're proposing here in your drawings?
This building has 5 stories. Option 1 has 5 stories. Option 2 has 4.
Okay.
Could you say what you mean by a neighborhood amenity?
Yeah, so that's, it could mean a range of things, but neighborhood services, we've heard a desire for either like recreational facilities or, commercial space that's more neighborhood serving, shared kitchens, things of that nature. So, something that maybe a local partner could provide that would be kind of a hybrid of like retail, commercial, and neighborhood services.
Okay, thank you.
How about the city bringing in some of the other partners to the community, such as family support, revenue, things that we need to be able to access?
Sure,
Is that part
sure.
of your amenity?
Yeah, and we purposefully kind of left it broad because we know that means a lot to a lot of different folks, and we want to kind of get a sense of what that means, and we'll have time actually in the breakout rooms to kind of discuss each of these and get a better sense of what some of those visions are that folks on the line have.
Okay, so let's do 5 more seconds and then I'll end the poll. Okay, I'm ending the poll. So the responses are restaurants for what types of uses you would like to see here, with 59% of the vote. Close second is neighborhood amenity with 50%. Then retail stores with 36%, and some other type of industry at 18%. For the height of the building, 82% said just the right height. So that's interesting. And then 18% said it was too tall, and 5%, only 1% said it could be taller. So thank you, everyone. Here are the results.
All right, John, we're ready for site B.
Okay. Great. So again, site B is interesting. Again, it's a very large site, and so it's got a lot of potential. Also, it can begin to sort of fill a gap of development in the area as we've studied it. So there's not a ton of things going on around, but again, here's an aerial. You can see we've identified some area that kind of blends down into the residential street a bit. Again, I should mention there is an existing building on the site, which you can see. So we'll have an option, as you can see here, that imagines the site with that building gone. And we'll have another option that maintains it. But in this case, we are showing along Springfield Avenue, you can see a townhome type of residential, sensitive to heights and setbacks of the existing neighborhood. And then at the corner of Springfield and Chicago, you can see we're showing a commercial retail space, again, continuing that Chicago corridor. But in this case, providing some, again, public plaza type space that could be part of a neighborhood amenity. All that could mean, as Gerardo was mentioning there. And then above that, we are showing, I think, so this is actually the 65 units, what we're saying here is including the townhomes. So there's roughly 45 or 50 in this T-shaped mass here. So multi-unit residential above and 4 stories, so up to 5 stories in this case. And as I mentioned, option B imagines the site with the existing building still there. So in this case, you can see along Springfield, we considered adding a more of this townhome type of housing, bring that a little farther down, and then bring the neighborhood amenity to the corner. So no commercial retail in this scenario. And then with multi-unit residential to the east there, up to 5 stories.
We have some poll questions for this as well.
Are you able to see the polls, Ernest, now?
No, I can't.
Okay, I'll do this one too here. So site 2, so similar. The first, oops, excuse me. Okay, so the first question asks, which types of development would you like to see here along Chicago Avenue? So the question is all new development, new construction across the site, a mix between keeping the existing buildings, renovating, and new development, and then keeping the existing buildings and then just having open space on the vacant lots. And if you scroll down, you see a second question, which is what do you think about the height of the building? And again, too tall, could be taller, or the right height. And I don't know, I didn't see, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories, I believe.
Yes, this one's a 5-story scenario. They both are at the tallest. And I'll just toggle back and forth between the two.
Great. So I'll give a couple more seconds here.
Hello, this is Alicia. Can I ask what would be in the existing buildings? What kind of development would be there, or would the current development remain?
Yeah, so I can, the idea is, so obviously it is private property. And so in order for this vision to move forward, for the whole entire site, it's assuming that the property owner would be willing to be a part of the RFP process or even sell the land to a developer. In this, what we're seeing on the screen here assumes that maybe that's not the case and they have every right to not want to participate, but it would assume their kind of existing development or maybe you know, certainly the scale of it would remain the same.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll give 5 more seconds.
Can you answer the question surrounding parking for the number of units and the parking spaces that you're looking to allocate?
Yeah, JGMA team, can you give us? I know we're kind of very much in the you know, rough estimate phase of doing these massings. Can you give us a sense though of you know, what you've considered here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, which you can't see because we don't have a great plan view of this. We're showing about 25 to 30 parking spaces in the back that would fit in this scenario. So, you know, we know that's a little less than you might see typically. Typically, maybe you would see 1 per residential unit or something like that. But we do know that being along Chicago Avenue, we do have the ability to bring that down probably by 50%. So much more in line with what we're proposing here because of the bus transit that's available on Chicago Avenue.
Okay, so I will end the poll and share the results. So we have a tie here for the first question. Tie between an all new development across the entire site and then a mix between existing buildings and new development. And then for building height, most people, 81% think it's the right height, and no one thinks it could be taller. And 19% thinks it's too tall. So I'll stop sharing.
Hi, this is Adrienne with Humboldt Park. On this site, did you say 5 stories or was it 3 stories like site A?
No, so you could see here the mass to the east has 5 stories. The central bar has 4, and then the townhomes would be about 2.
Okay.
And then in this, in option 2, option 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories again to the east. And then we're showing a little bit taller here for the townhomes. We haven't totally fleshed that out yet, but 2 to 3 stories over there.
Awesome. Can we move on to the next site?
Absolutely. Okay, so site C. As I mentioned, there's a lot of stakeholders and people at the table around the site. So, you know, it makes it interesting in that it can potentially start to have a relationship with those, you know, what does it mean to Royal Clark or to the Development Council or Neighborhood Housing Services. It is a small site relative to the others. And so in this case, we have, again, 2 options. Option 1 shows a fairly small residential development, maybe 10 units or so, but then really focuses the site on the neighborhood amenity. So again, providing that, that outdoor public gathering space, really wrapping around into that neighborhood amenity, which would take up the majority of the ground floor.
John, can I interrupt you for a second?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. I don't know why we're discussing this one in particular, since it is privately owned. Can you give me some thoughts before moving forward on why this is talked about?
Hey, John.
Yeah, Ernest?
Yeah, Robert, thanks for the comment. This site has come up as an opportunity site because of the owner's willingness to be part of the RFP process in a sense, as well as the location along the corridor being so close to so many amenities, we felt it was applicable to kind of explore an option that was in the kind of center of our corridor that had close connections with so many existing uses. Overall, we're looking at not only different sites, but different sizes of what can work best along the corridor.
And I think what's also important to understand is looking at the, I'm sorry, did you have something else?
No, that was helpful, but continue. I don't want to cut you off. Thank you.
Yeah, no. And I was just saying, what's also important to understand here, and you know, having gone through this on Chicago to the west, you know, in Austin, is we really want to establish a development framework, a vision for this corridor. And so understand we likely won't be able to RFP every one of these sites. You know, more than likely, maybe we can do one, but the idea of, you know, having that one be the most catalytic is really important here, and thinking about that site in relation to the rest of the corridor, we feel is how you kind of get to that catalytic development. So even though this may be a small site and it'd be difficult for the city to finance maybe with its tools, we still felt it was worth exploring and having a discussion around. And if nothing else, just leaving that imprint for potential future development. So, you know, especially given its proximity to Roe Clark, et cetera. So, you know, really what we're all seeing here is, you know, some preliminary thoughts, and this feedback is really helpful for us to start to kind of formulate and identify a site.
And this is Adrian again. That site is for sale. That site is directly across the street from a Roe Clark Math and Science Academy, which is very, it would be a very potential site for development, although it's small, but it would really stabilize the school and attract more attendance and students and parents that want to come to the school. I'm not sure, Ernest, what's behind that building, but there is property that go back, and I'm not sure if it's vacant. They go back south.
There is a lot that's vacant right across the street from our parking lot. And that has actually been a challenge for us, specifically at Roe Clark, over many years to figure out who owns that and how we can utilize that. So it is definitely used for trash. It was a garden at one point. It's not the best. Yeah.
So, you know, that would be an opportunity to look further back, like you have on some of the other sites.
Yeah, so the lot on the northwest corner there, that used to be a multi-unit that burned down and then was demolished.
Well, thanks for everyone for those points and feedback. John, if you wanted to continue on.
Yeah. So I think I explained this one. Smaller residential development focused on a neighborhood amenity. And then in this option 2 for site C, looking at, again, continuing commercial retail on Chicago Avenue, but then thinking about that neighborhood amenity in a much more significant way, and really kind of going upward, but thinking of larger, more voluminous spaces.
And
should I go to a poll?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So let's launch. So this one has one question and similar. What types of uses would you like to see at this particular location? Retail, restaurants, some sort of community amenity space. And again, that's sort of a broad idea. And then business incubator for food, technology, arts, co-working. Again, sort of a broad catchment there.
Quick question, this is Maurice at the YMCA. I may have missed it. Is this the first time I saw the business incubator being an option for a site? Is there a reason behind that?
Not particularly, other than, you know, the size of the site maybe lends itself well to something like that. But, you know, if that is something, and again, we'll have time in breakout rooms and larger discussion, is that if that is something that folks feel there's potential for across the corridor, you know, I think that's the kind of stuff we want to hear about as well.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, I'll give it a few more seconds. Okay, and I will end the poll and share the results. So fairly even, 60% like the idea of a business incubator. 45% looked to restaurants. Community amenity space received 40% of the votes, and then retail stores received 35% of the votes. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Johnny, we could take it away to Site D.
Absolutely. Again, yeah, so Site D, and forgive the graphic, I'll explain in a minute. It's a little bit larger than what we're actually proposing on, but it is interesting. Again, it's to the north side of the corridor. It's near the Salvation Army Freedom Center, and so far it's the furthest east property that we have looked at. So you can see here, as I mentioned earlier when we were just looking at the site, there is some interesting landscaping going on here, as well as a Park District property to the north. And again, these might be slightly misleading, but we are basically trying to maintain those park items here in that open space. So that's the idea. This is option one. Again, this one locates a neighborhood amenity, which could really reach both of those open space areas and face them in some way, bringing, in this case, about 30 residential units above that. So 3 stories of residential, 4 stories total for option D. Excuse me, option 1 on Site D. Option 2 looks to break that up a little bit and locates the neighborhood amenity in this sort of narrow lot, but again, still addressing and respecting the open space that's around. And then in this case, the idea is to bring a little more residential, again, on a relatively tight site, but to also address the needs for different types of housing. So is there a townhome type of product, and then a multi-unit residential that could be above that?
Okay, should we do a poll, Ernest? Okay. So for Site D, there's 1 question. So again, it's similar to the other questions asked. So what types of uses would you like to see at this site? And it's housing, restaurants, community amenities, community space, retail, or some type of business incubator. So I'll give it a few seconds here. I'll give it a couple more seconds.
So this one, you can only choose one option.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll keep that in mind here. Okay, I'll end the poll. Share results. So the community amenity space was important to people with 36%. Then there are 3 that are tied for housing, retail, and business incubator. And then 9% selected a restaurant. And I'll keep in mind when we download these polls that you can only choose one. Thank you.
And Erica, I would say those numbers for retail and restaurant was low because we have the Kedzie Mall right there. And we also have the Salvation Army, which has a lot of programs. So that's a difficult one right there.
No. Also, there's the Park District owns a lot of land behind that space. That was at one point there was a proposal for a skate park, and so we'd also looked at that pass through from Chicago Avenue to open up into that small park area.
Yes, John, that's still scheduled to happen. The skate park, it's still in the works. So we wanted to respect that site to the back and provide a kind of like with this visioning a passageway back to it. But it's still on track to come. So thank you all for participating in the polls and walking through the sites. John, I'll let you take it away again. John from JGMA.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ernest. And really, this is, I know we're a little bit behind time, but I think we're doing pretty well here, about ready to really dive into these in the breakout groups. So I just wanted to post a little bit of a recap of each, especially considering the sites, as Gerardo was mentioning, we're looking at very different sites. So trying to explore all the possibilities from grabbing the sort of the gateway west end of the corridor with site A, or a large potential site B that could kind of span or fill some development gaps along the corridor, to site C, which is again centrally located with a lot of things going on around it, and site D, which, as you saw, was very interesting in terms of what's happening and planned for.
John, can I pause you for a second as well?
As always.
Thank you. I see Kellis Park there, and there's just to the south of that is the fire station. I was told that the city was going to make that into like a park building, like a park house. Does anybody know if that's happening or what the time frame of that is, since we're that corridor?
Well, Robert, just real quickly about that. Kellis Park is expanding. That's in the process of getting worked out with the Park District, but yeah, that's still on line of continuing to happen.
They're still talking about the firehouse converting to a community center as well as upgrading the park. This is Nita, Kellis Park Community Council President.
Thank you. Thank you both.
So we were tempted to kind of, do some visioning on Kellis Park as well on that firehouse, but given that it's already kind of on its own track, we thought it'd be better to focus on Chicago and let that project, come to fruition, as it's moving forward anyway.
Okay, and then if there are any more questions, I mean, certainly that's the idea, is to spawn ideas as we move into the breakout groups. So again, we show multiple options for all the site, really just to sort of spark your ideas and get your feedback and get the ideas flowing in those groups to see how we can retweak these and incorporate those.
Well, thank you, John. I just wanted to say a quick thank you to not only JGMA, but the entire CCAC team we have working on this corridor. They're all working pro bono on this, and they're really providing the muscle behind all these visions that you're seeing for opportunity sites along the corridor, and a deeper dive into understanding our portion of Humboldt Park deeper than what we've been routinely talking about and discovering in our monthly community roundtables. So thank you both to CCAC and our consultant team for all the hard work that you've put into these visions thus far. So we're gonna get ready to head into our breakout groups. Next slide. So overall, remind everyone that be polite of your etiquette in the breakout groups. Please allow for one person to speak at a time. Be courteous and respectful to one another. And also consider using the chat function to share ideas. We will gather all the ideas, whether they're verbal or typed. Our breakout groups, we're running a little bit behind time. They're gonna be a little bit shortened today to about 20 minutes so that we can have a few minutes of kind of a recap out of that and then a conclusion. So kind of ignore the 30-minute there. We're a little behind time, but we want to capture all the feedback that you all have in the breakout groups. And so I think with that next slide, some questions that we'll want to delve in a little bit more in the breakout groups are, as such, given the development priorities shown, what are your two development priorities for these sites? What building scale and program makes the most sense to you based on what we've gathered so far? What within CCAC's site options should change? And lastly, is there a community priority that is missing? So with that, we'll open the breakout rooms and continue the discussion going further.
Hello, this is Alicia. Can you repeat again what the breakout rooms are? And I had the option on my screen, but I missed it, so I didn't get to join.
Yeah, it's a chance to discuss just in more detail your thoughts on the presentation. So, feel free to join in.
So at this time, there's only one breakout room.
No, there's 4 different rooms. You've been assigned to one of the rooms.
Oh, I've been assigned. I didn't know. I didn't know if I needed to choose or what.
No. Just
so
choose. Just choose
so
the
I'm
one.
assigned to your room.
Yes. Well, I'm I'm the host, so I'm just managing this for Ernest, who's leading the meeting. So.
Okay, so tell me what room, I'm sorry, what breakout session I'm assigned to then.
You're assigned to room 1. I would, they're the same for everybody. There's nothing different, but for the people.
Oh, okay. So I'm sorry, I misunderstood how to get assigned. I saw most of the participants disappear.
Yeah.
So, okay.
If you click the link,
But I didn't
you go right.
I didn't choose a room.
No, if you click the link,
Okay.
you go right into the room.
Okay, I didn't choose the link. That's what I'm saying. I didn't choose.
No, you did not.
Okay.
Ernest, this is so stressful.
Okay, I was like, oh no, did I kick everyone out of the breakout?
No, I like when I couldn't like once you're in the rooms, I couldn't like manipulate who was the host, and then I went into your room to try to do it from there, and I couldn't do it there either. So
Okay.
that's why I asked you to leave. So I'm gonna leave now.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, if you want to switch it over.
you're your host now.
Okay, all right, then I will start reassigning the.
All you have to do is sign yourself back into room 1.
Okay.
And the
Well, what about everyone who's here with us?
They were assigned, they just never joined.
Okay.
So
all
I
right.
can't fix that for them.
Okay,
I don't
gotcha.
know. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks.
No problem.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. See you.
Oh yeah, and sorry about the typo earlier. I don't know.
Oh, I don't care. It was funny. I like it.
All right. See ya.
Yeah.
Richard, are you there?
I'm here.
I just want to answer your question real quick. So I did send this invite out to about 96 community and partners and community residents. So it has gone out and we should have another one, but we're informing as many people as we can.
Okay, yeah, I heard you say that there was not too many people from the community involved, but I just feel like, I don't know, we just really, maybe there's some other way of communicating this to the community. So maybe there's another media, another way to do that as well.
Well, we've asked everyone, every organization that we're involved in to send it out to your parents, the parents, your customers, your clients. Just send it out to people in the community because we can't meet in person right now.
I understand.
Well, thank you everyone for all your spirited discussions and comments in the breakout rooms. I know we all could have used more time, but we're glad for the time we've had to kind of hear your thoughts. So I think we have about 5 minutes remaining. And there's so much to talk about. Instead of kind of like reporting out in different groups, we'll collect the questions that have been mentioned in the various groups between the CCA team and DPD staff that's been sitting in and taking notes in these conversations, and we'll recap afterwards out to everyone. But kind of wanted to go over some final thought questions and see what everyone thinks. Pose these 3 questions of given what site opportunities generated positive feedback and challenges, what surprised you most, and what are your main takeaways about the scenarios presented here today? So if we'd like to go around the room, just answering one question real quickly, given we only have 5 minutes of time, and allowing for others to speak. Not everyone at once. Anyone, feel free to jump in.
I think number 3, what are your main takeaways about the scenarios presented? I think it's great that we're focusing on building up the Chicago Avenue corridor, and whether it's bringing commercial in there, or whether it's bringing more multi-use, multi-housing or retail. I think that's well needed, something that we haven't seen in years past on Chicago Avenue.
I think my takeaway from our group too is the residents want to have more of a neighborhood setting. They want to be able to walk the things. They want to have amenities in their neighborhood. That's definitely lacking in the corridor, and that was the takeaway I have.
I would echo that. So in our group, Ernest, there was a need for more sit-down restaurants, right? This concept of the open plaza that we showed in many of our schemes was well received. People want to see those kinds of spaces to improve public safety and create more safe spaces. Affordable housing, a need for that. So the multi-unit housing that we showed in our schemes was also well received. So I echo those same comments.
I'll just jump in. There was a lot of alignment between what we felt as a provider in the community about amenities that are needed between some other folks that come at it from different perspectives, given whether they're a resident or other organizations. So there was a lot of alignment in our conversations.
One of the things that surprised me in our group, Ernest, was hearing about Site D and maybe not having as much of a need in that area because of the programs that the Salvation Army is already doing, as well as the Kedzie Mall providing shopping nearby. So that surprised me.
I think from our group, one of the things that the site opportunity that generated positive feedback was Site A, and its prominence, its key role as the opportunity to be a gateway, as was previously mentioned. I think there's a lot of alignment and thought that could very well be a very prominent development and generate, I think, a lot more community activity in a location that makes sense for Chicago Ave.
I think to add on to what our group also thought was, there isn't just a lack of, one type of thing on Chicago Avenue, really the desire for having a mix of also additional retail, commercial, potentially civic, housing, that it's really not just one program that's really needed, it's a lot of different ones. And how can we kind of, do a lot without overwhelming the sites or Chicago, that area of Chicago Avenue as well. And I think some things that were really interesting that were brought up as well are like, the potential of, a museum or a civic component that, like talks to, what this neighborhood really is about, how can we potentially keep historical buildings that still provide a lot of character, because, building up ground up can have a tendency to kind of take away, right, from that existing character. So where are the potentials to keep some of that?
That's great. Well, thanks everyone for those all that great feedback. So just wanted to give you all a little bit of a preview of next steps here. So the draft RFP timeline is as such of kind of development and releasing the RFP, which will happen in late March. And then after that, responses would be developed out of the RFP process and these visioning sessions with the community. From there, and continued roundtable engagement at the community roundtables monthly will be an evaluation phase. There will be summer developer presentations that will the developers who respond to the RFP based off of all the great feedback that we've received here today. There will be 2 presentations for developers who respond to the RFP, and then a developer will be selected from there based off of what we RFP as a site or sites, as well as the continued engagement. The community roundtables will continue on. This process doesn't stop with just this RFP process, and there will be other points of engagement that will happen throughout this process. So that's it in short. We're at time. Thank you all so much. We're actually a minute over time. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your Friday to be part of this visioning process and providing feedback. Any questions or comments, feel free to email dpd@cityofchicago.org to kind of give your feedback and take of today. And we look forward to seeing you at the next visioning workshop, of which you all will receive an email through the sources you received the invite for today's presentation. So thank you all. Thank you to the CCA team again, all the collective team, JGMA, Belgravia, and Integra, McHugh. Thank you all so much for your hard and diligent work and pro bono services to this. The community, as well as DPD, thanks you so much for all you've put into this. With that, and thanks in the chat there, Robert and everyone. Thank you all, and have a great rest of your Friday afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ernest.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, Ernest.
Have a good
Take
day.
care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.